بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. How many types of lam are there in this vast ocean called Arabic language? In this lesson, which is an advanced linguistics, advanced grammar lesson, we will take a look at the different types of lam in the beautiful language called Arabic. Every lam you see in the Quran or Hadith or any Arabic book for that matter must necessarily be one of these four types. Al-Jarra, which is the one that makes an Ism Majroor after it. Al-Nasiba, according to Kufis, is the one that makes Mudari after it, Mansoob. There are two types. And Al-Jazima, which is the one that makes Mudari Majzoom, and there's only one type. And Al-Muhmala, which means that it does not do any amal. So it does not do an amal of jar or nasb or jazm. It doesn't cause any change in the word after it. And there are seven types, and we will look at all of them. Most of them have to do with tawqid or qasam. In this lesson, we will look at al-jarra. I have listed in this book, as of today, 7 types of al-lam al-jarra. Some of our great ulama, such as Ibn Hisham, have listed even more. But the ones that I have listed here are universally agreed upon by majority, if not all of the ulama. As for the ones that are disagreed upon, you can check them out in great works such as Mughni al-Labib, Ibn Hisham, as well as more recent works such as Jami' al-Durus al-Arabiyyah, wa Ma'ani, al-Nahu, and many other classical as well as modern works. So without further ado, let's look at, we have 7 types of al-lam al-jarra here, right? And we're going to talk about each one of them in details. So we have a total of 17 here as of today. 7 plus 2 plus 1 plus 7. So we have 17 different types of lam that are included in my textbook, Quranic Linguistics, Level 5, Advanced Arabic Grammar. So here's a list of al-lam al-jarra. They are classified according to their ma'ani. Ma'ani al-lam al-jarra. The first type of lam al-jarra is the one that has the meaning of al-istihqaq, and it's called lam al-istihqaq, which means truly or rightfully deserving, entitled, or worthy of. And this lam makes a connection between تدخل بين معنى وذات, makes a connection between meaning and that. In other words, what it's saying is هذه الذات, this being, تستحق, deserves ذلك المعنى. Examples: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الحمد لله. When we say Alhamdulillah, we have معنى الحمد, which is a masdar and means to praise. It's a meaning. And we have that, which is in this case Allah, and in between the two there is this lam al-jarra, you can see. So this lam al-jarra is actually lam al-istihqaq, and it is making a connection between ma'na and hamd and that Allah. Similarly, inna al-izzata lillahi, you have al-izza, which is a meaning, ma'na, and that Allah, being. Similarly, you have wailun lil mutaffifin. You have wail, which has 2 meanings. It's either a name, it could be both. It means a valley in hellfire, and it could also mean halak, destruction. So wailun lil mutaffifin. Al mutaffifin is the people who are described as doing this tatfif. So in these examples, what do we see? We see lam al-istihqaq, that's making a connection between ma'nan and that. That's it. That's lam al-istihqaq, and it has the idea of truly or rightfully deserving. So when we say Alhamdulillah, what we're saying is that Allah is the one who truly or rightfully deserves hamd, praise, regardless of who is the one, regardless of whoever is doing the good deeds. Allah is the one who enables us all. Now, here's an important disclaimer, tanbih. There's a difference in terminology. What I'm calling lam al-istihqaq is same as lam al-ikhtisas, nafsiha, عند الغلاييني. According to Mustafa al-Ghalayini, Lam al-istihqaq is lam al-ikhtisas. Okay. He does not differentiate between the two, and this is mentioned in Jami' al-Durus al-Arabiya, a very nice, beautiful work. I highly recommend everyone to purchase a copy of this. It should be in the bookshelf of every Islamic scholar and Arabic teacher. However, Ibn Hisham, who is a classical scholar, very respected, very authoritative, he disagrees. He differentiates between ikhtisas and istihqaq. For more information, you can refer back to pages 205 and 206 of Mughni al-Labib. Next, we have lam al-milk or shibh al-milk. This is two in one, really two different categories that are lumped together as one. Milk, of course, as you know, means possession, belongs to. So let's look at milk first and then shibh al-milk. تدخل بين ذاتين. So the idea of milk, lam al-milk, is that it تدخل بين ذاتين. You see how previously we saw لام الاستحقاق تدخل بين معنى وذات. Here تدخل بين ذاتين. Example, when I say القلم لزيد, you can see lam, right? Making connection between al-qalam, which is a that, a being, and Zaid, who is also a being. So what I'm saying is Zaid owns milk, yamliku al-qalam. Similarly, when we say al-kitabu lahu, al-kitabu lahu, the book is for him. What are we doing? We're making a connection between al-kitab, which is a being, and he, which is a being. Here's a couple of examples from the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. له ما في السماوات وما والأرض. Excuse me. This one has the ma appearing twice. له ما في السماوات والأرض. لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. In both the cases, we're making a connection. This lam is making a connection, implying that the ownership is for him, the ownership of السماوات والأرض. Everything, ma fi samawati, wa ma fil ard, everything that is in the heavens and the earth, think of it as one group of beings, is owned milk by Allah, who is a being. So we have dhatain. Next concept is shibhul mulk, something that looks like it's owning it, but it's not really truly an owner. Shibhul milk is examples of that is al-ghilafu lil kitab, the cover is for the book. The book, quote unquote, owns the cover. The book obviously cannot, in reality, own anything. Al-babu lid-dar, the house, the door is for the house. Al-miftahu lil-bab, the key is for the door. Al-lijamu lil-faras. So in all these examples, we see that ownership is ascribed to something that cannot possibly own. Okay. All right. Now there's an important disclaimer. تنبيه سماها بعضهم لام الاختصاص. Now some of the classical works consider this lam al-milk or shibh al-milk also as a type of al-ikhtisas. So lam al-ikhtisas is according to those ulama who call it lam al-ikhtisas, is of three types: lam al-milk, lam al-shibh al-milk, and lam al-istihqaq. Okay, so there's a difference of terminology. So be careful when you read books, classical books. They will use different terminology. This terminology is the easiest, lam al-istihqaq and lam al-milk or shibh al-milk, and henceforth I've adopted it, and I'm going to be referring to it as such. The next type of lam is lam al-ta'diyah. Okay, lam al-ta'diyah. And lam al-ta'diyah is the lam of transitivity. Lam of transitivity. We have to understand al-ta'diyah. What is al-ta'diyah? The topic of al-ta'diyah is covered extensively in Quranic Linguistics Level 1 Introductory Quranic Morphology. So we will go to that textbook now and look at Bab al-Ta'addi wal-Luzum, And we're not going to do the full normal lesson. We're just going to do enough to refresh your memory and review quickly and understand what is at-ta'diyah, and then understand what is lam at-ta'diyah. Okay. In order to understand at-ta'diyah, you really have to understand al-maf'ul bihi, the object or the done to. And then I believe all of you at this level understand maf'ul bihi, at least at some level. Then we will now dive into an extension, an advanced understanding of maf'ul bihi, which is called at-ta'addi wal-luzum. This is again QL 1. Transitivity and intransitivity. Al-fi'lu naw'an. Lazim wa muta'addin. Every verb is either lazim or muta'addin. It either has a maf'ul bihi or it can't have a maf'ul bihi. أما الفعل اللازم فلا مفعول به له وأما الفعل المتعدي فله مفعول به واحد أو اثنان أو ثلاثة. That's the max. The transitive verb or muta'addi can have 1, 2, or maximum of 3. And muta'addi itself is naw'an. How does it do transitivity? هو متعد بنفسه. It can be transitive by itself, meaning no harf jar or something else is needed. Or it can be muta'addin bi harf al-jar, and this is what got us into this chapter. We're doing lam al-ta'diyah. Remember, lam al-ta'diyah is a lam harf jar that's causing ta'diyah. So here's some examples for fi'l that is lazim, that fi'l that cannot have a maf'ul bihi, like marida zaydun, there's no maf'ul bihi. Hazinat Fatima, no maf'ul bihi. Shabi'a zaydun, no maf'ul bihi, and so on and so forth. Just going to do a crash course on this right now. Al-fi'l al-muta'addi bi nafsihi is examples like Tahura qalbi, my heart has been purified. Tahharallahu qulubana. Allah has purified our hearts. So tahura qalbi, lazim, no maf'ul bihi. Form 1, no maf'ul bihi. But tahharallahu qulubana, this fi'l can have a maf'ul bihi. And qulub is a maf'ul bihi. Only one maf'ul bihi here. That's a quick example for that. Let's continue going. Keep going, because this is not directly related. أمثلة للفعل المتعدي بحرف الجر. This is getting more direct now. Sometimes you can use the harf jar to trick the fi'l. The verb can't have an explicit object by itself. So what do? We trick, quote unquote, trick the fi'l into having a maf'ul bihi by using a preposition. Now keep in mind that many Arabic teachers are not going to like or agree with what I'm saying, but it's true. It's backed by ulama. Like if you look at the classical books, this is a well-known concept, okay? And especially if you look at Jami' al-Durus al-Arabiyyah, Mustafa al-Ghalayini, he talks about this too. But when I was taught Arabic, I was told the word after harf jar is just ism majroor, it's not maf'ul bihi, and that's it. But that's not the full story. That's not the full story. A lot of times the ism that comes after harf jar is, yes, it's ism majroor, for sure. It's ism majroor because there's alamatul jar and all that. But it is indirect maf'ul bihi. So when I say jalastu, there's no maf'ul bihi, it's lazim. But when I say jalastu ala al-kursi, I'm sitting on the chair, isn't al-kursi al-majlusun alayhi like a maf'ul bihi? Yes, it is, according to many ulama. So I call it maf'ul bihi awwal, and I put it in parentheses because some people don't call it maf'ul bihi, but everyone agrees this is ism majroor. And another reason for putting it in parentheses is to show that this is indirect, ghayru sarih. Okay. All right. The rest I don't need to get into. I want to show you examples where you have lam. So lam is not the only harf jar that can do ta'diyah. You can see ala can do ta'diyah big time. Oops, Microsoft Word keeps freezing. Ala can do ta'diyah. Okay. Examples. You can do ta'diyah with ba harf jar. ذهب زيد بخالد بمعنى أذهب زيد خالدا. So you can do ta'diyah with ala, you can do ta'diyah with ba. ذهب الله بنورهم. Here's another example of harf jar ba doing ta'diyah. في رغبت في القراءة. Here fi is used for ta'diyah, Ila is used for ta'diyah. Ahsanat Fatimatu ila zawjiha. You can also say bi zawjiha. Subtle difference. Ila is used to do ta'diyah. Ba is used to do ta'diyah. وَقَدْ أَحْسَنَ بِي from the Quran. And here is finally what we were talking about. قُلْتُهُ, I said it. قُلْتُهُ لِزَيْدٍ, I said it to Zayd. So, قُلْتُهُ, I said it, form 1. Where's the maf'ul bihi? The maf'ul bihi is who? This should not be in parentheses. The maf'ul bihi here is who? قُلْتُهُ, the maf'ul bihi is who, right? Clearly, explicitly, sarih. There's no maf'ul bihi thani, but let's say I need a second maf'ul bihi thani because I said it to Zayd or said it to Fatima. Then I quote unquote trick the fi'l qala yaqulu qul into having a maf'ul bihi by adding lam. قُلْتُهُ لِزَيْدٍ, I said it to Zayd. So Zayd is the indirect maf'ul bihi, that's why I put it in parentheses. But it's, so every Arabic teacher will tell you this is ism majroor ba'da harf al-jar. Yes, 100% right, I agree. In addition to it being ism majroor, it's also maf'ulun bihi ghayru sarih. Wa wahabna lahu ishaq. Here we have that example again. So who is the maf'ul bihi al-awwal, first, and ishaq is maf'ul bihi thani. And again, we have other examples of ta'diyah bi'ala and so on and so forth. So you can go back and review this chapter. There's video recordings, there's practice exercises, there are quizzes, all kinds of fun stuff for you to enjoy and become an expert. That was QL1, Introductory Morphology. Okay, now that we have covered the topic of at-ta'diyah in Quranic Linguistics Level 1, let's come back here and finish up our understanding. يَتَعَدَّى الْفِعْلُ بِهَا. The fi'l is made transitive with her, meaning lam al-ta'diyah. لماذا؟ لإيصال المعنى, to convey the meaning, to make the meaning reach. إلى الاسم المجرور, to the ism majrur بعدها. And we've gone through these examples before, so there's no point in talking more about it. I will, however, mention this brief note here. Tambih. There's an important observation I've made. Okay. Our great ulama, some of them, talk about something called lam at-tabyin. And I spent quite some time studying it, looking at it in different books and comparing it. And I came to the conclusion that lam at-tabyin is a special case or special application of lam at-ta'diyah. And let's read this note to clarify. تسمى هذه اللام, this lam, meaning lam at-ta'diyah, تسمى لام التبيين إذا when تعدى بها اسم التفضيل وفعل التعجب والمفعول المطلق العوض دعاء, as a dua, واسم الفعل. So when you have these four things, you have اسم التفضيل. Let's underline them for better readability. So when you have these four things, ism al-tafdil, that needs a maf'ul bihi, you use what they call lam al-tabyin, which is really, if you really think about it, it's lam al-ta'diyah. It's lam al-ta'diyah. Similarly, sometimes you have fi'l al-ta'ajjub, right? Ma af'alahu or af'al bihi. In such a case, if ma af'alahu for some reason needs, in certain contexts, it needs a maf'ul bihi, you use this lam, which they call lam al-ta'diyah, which again is a specific application of lam, which is called lam al-tabyin by some of the ulama, which, as I said before, is a specific application of lam al-ta'diyah. Similarly, sometimes you have maf'ul mutlaq iwad, and it's used like a dua, and it needs a maf'ul bihi. It gets a lam al-ta'diyah, and it can be called lam al-tabyin. it is called lam al-tabyin by some ulama. And similarly, you have ismul fi'l. Sometimes ismul fi'l needs a maf'ul bihi. Because if you, the ismul fi'l may not be able to get a maf'ul bihi on its own, or it may not be clear what the maf'ul bihi is. That's why they call it lam al-tabyin, as it clarifies what the maf'ul bihi is. So lam al-tabyin, as I said before, to me is just a specific application of lam al-ta'diyah. So you will see this term. Here are some examples of lam al-tabyin. Khalidun ahabbu li. Khalidun ahabbu li. This lam here you can see is lam al-ta'diyah. It's allowing ahabbu, which is ism al-tafdil, as we learn in Quranic Linguistics level 1, to acquire a maf'ul bihi, which is the ya al-mutakallim here is maf'ul bihi. Okay. Min sa'idin. Ma ahabbani lil ilmi. When you say ma ahabbani, you can see the ya here is already maf'ul bihi, and I need a second maf'ul bihi to transfer, to do ta'diyah, and this is lam right here. This is called lam al-tabyin, which is, to me, is just lam al-ta'diyah, Allahu a'lam. And then you have an example here from the Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. فَسُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. Suhqan here, this is maf'ul mutlaq iwad, used as a dua against ashab al-sa'ir, and you can see the lam there attaching itself to ashab, and this is what they call lam at-tabyin, some of them, which again you can see it's just lam at-ta'diyah. So the word suhqan is maf'ul mutlaq iwad, and it's used as a dua, ay ashaqahumullahu, ay ab'adahumullahu an rahmatihi. You have sahiqa yashaqu, which means to be distant, to be far away. It's like suhqan is like saying ashaqahumullah, and you can see hum is the maf'ul bihi. Who are the hum? The hum are ashab al-sa'ir. So ashab is maf'ul bihi in reality. Hence, you have this lam al-ta'diyah, which is called lam al-tabyin by some ulama. And the example for ismul fi'l is hayhata hayhata lima tu'adun. Hayhata means ba'uda. It's like someone is saying, in the context of this verse, it means ba'uda ma tu'adun ilayhi, ma tu'aduna ilayhi. So this lam is lam at-tabyin, and it's attached to ma. This ma, there's an ikhtilaf about this ma. Some say it's zaida, and some say it's the fa'il. As far as this ma being fa'il, that's considered weak by As-Samin al-Halabi. You can read his tafsir. He says to call it fa'il, this ma as fa'il, is weak. So where is the fa'il if this ma is not the fa'il? The ulama of tafsir and lugha say the fa'il is محذوف مقدر التصديق، أي بعد التصديق أو الصحة لما توعدون إليه. So the person making this statement is saying that that's too far. It's too far-fetched to believe tasdeeq or be valid what you're being called to. And who is making that statement? The context indicates that the kuffar are saying that the resurrection coming out of the graves is ba'ud, it's hayhata lima tu'adun. It's impossible to believe in. It can't be valid, as the Prophet ﷺ taught them. So they were not believing in it, and they said hayhata. And the meaning here is ta'ajjub bi-ma'na. So it's this expression hayhata has been interpreted by the ulama to mean ta'ajjub, ay ما أبعده ما أبعده how far it is how far it is. فالفاعل محذوف واللام للتعدية قيل زائدة وما مصدرية, and the repetition is توكيد because you can see the اسم الفعل هيهات is repeated twice, and this is اسم الفعل الماضي. So, having discussed all these details, what have we learned? What we have learned is that this thing called lam al-ta'diyah has also been called by some ulama as lam al-tabyin, because it enters upon a word and clarifies that this word is maf'ul bihi. And there's a long, sophisticated discussion you can find in Mughni Labib and other mutawwalat for this lam al-tabyin. Again, my understanding, what I've understood and concluded is that lam al-tabyin is just a specific application of lam al-ta'diyah.